Democrats are forging ahead with legislation that would expand a $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit for the next 10 years. But there's a catch. Vehicles must be assembled in North America, and most critical materials can't come from China. This has a major auto group sounding the alarm, saying the credits will derail manufacturers' efforts to have EVs make up half their sales by 2030. I want to bring in the car coach, Lauren Fix. Lauren, thanks for being with me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Lauren, the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, which represents GM, Toyota, Volkswagen, they say these requirements are going to make most of their vehicles immediately ineligible, making it harder for them to reach that 50% goal. Do you think that's an overreaction, or are these targets actually in jeopardy?
No, I think the targets are actually in jeopardy, and it's not an overreaction. Ford and GM petitioned heavily the federal government to put that $7,500 tax credit back in. They did. However, they put it across all product lines. So they then eliminated companies like Tesla, GM, Ford, Toyota, who were not able to get that $7,500 tax credit to consumers. They're now giving it back to them. However, there's all these little caveats, as there always is in federal government. First thing is that you can get the $7,500 tax credit if the vehicle's built in North America. Well, that's only about half of the vehicles that are produced. And then in addition to that, the batteries cannot have Chinese products or built in China, and that's going to take out the bulk of those batteries out of it, which means you as a consumer will not be getting any tax credit whatsoever. They did try to soften the blow a little bit by offering a $4,000 tax credit for used EVs, although there has been a lot of problems with used EVs because you don't know the maintenance and who took care of it before you, just like any used vehicle. And that's been a problem all along. So I don't know if it's going to help the used market that much because you can't even find vehicles if you wanted to.
I want to touch on the battery factor of this. This is clearly a push to be more American made here, but let's talk about those realities with the batteries, which are essentially the engines behind these EVs. China accounts for roughly 75% of the battery market today. Is it realistic to expect manufacturers to be able to avoid that market by next year?
No, there's no way they can do it by next year. They have a chip shortage as well, which again, that's owned by China. But now we're talking about the batteries. You've got cobalt, cadmium, lithium, mercury, neodymium. There's 7 rare earth minerals. That's only 5 of them. And we don't mine them here. We don't mine cobalt here because it's so hazardous to the environment. We are working on lithium mines here in the U.S. They are not up and running, and they won't be up and running in the next couple weeks or months for that matter. And so when you can't get some of these rare earth minerals and they have to come out of China or the Ukraine, that's going to be a problem because the issue is that Ukraine isn't obviously shipping anything. So that means we're reliant 100% on China. And things are just getting worse over there as far as shipping things over here. We still have problems with supply chain. I have no idea how we're going to make this happen. It sounds to me that it sounds good on the surface for the consumer, but in reality, it's going to hurt car manufacturers, and then they're going to raise the taxes on them besides, is not an incentive for them to build those battery factories here in the U.S.
Who is in the best position right now to be able to capitalize on these tax credits?
Well, the only one that's going to be able to capitalize is probably going to be Tesla, which already he's outsold Mercedes and on the brink of being the #1 selling vehicle. He's going to outsell Toyota. Everyone's got EV problems. We can't get batteries. We can't get chips. And this is not the fault of the car manufacturer. This is because China is controlling everything. And there's no way for us to start mining all this stuff here. Our environmental Protection Agency will not allow us to do that, and that's going to be a big problem. And I highly doubt if they want to go green, they're going to let us start mining here. So they're going to have to make a decision. This won't work. When this gets to the House, we'll see what changes happen to it. But as of today, this is not a good plan.
So while Democrats clearly want to pressure this industry to move away from Chinese products, you're telling me there's no feasible way to make significant gains in that.
Not by 2023. The thing is, if you were to open a chip factory, just that alone, it takes 3 years to get it up and running for the first chip to get off the production line to be usable. When you're looking at batteries, you've got all these government regulations, which makes it very expensive, which is why a lot of manufacturers produce their batteries in other countries because they don't have the same government regulations, environmental regulations, and taxation. And so that's why you see a lot of things being shipped overseas, whether it be to Taiwan, which could be a problem if China decides to invade. That would really put us in a bad position.
So let's say these manufacturers make the changes that are necessary for at least some of their models to be able to qualify under these tax credits. Now, let's move on to this. Some analysts say that these incentives are just going to allow manufacturers to push up their prices overall to be able to boost their profits. Do you think there's anything to that?
Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to raise the price because none of the car manufacturers, including Tesla, make a profit on the vehicle sale itself. Tesla makes the money on selling carbon credits to other countries, other companies that don't make electric vehicles. And there are some that just don't make enough or don't make any at all. So with that thought in mind, and you start thinking, okay, who's going to make the money on this? Well, the only one who's going to be making any benefit of this are people that make a lot of money. Because if you can't afford gasoline at the pump today, you're not going to go buy an electric vehicle. People that make over $100,000 up to $300,000 will be allowed to use that $7,500 tax credit to lower the price of the car, and car manufacturers can't afford that, so they're going to raise the price of the car to offset the difference. Still, they won't make a profit, but they have to make some sort of cash flow or they can't stay in business.
We'll see how this sorts out. The car coach, Lauren Fix, thank you so much for joining me.